Happy time zone! Tootsie Bird, Haven the Raven, and welcome back to Darksiders 3 feet only, where I'm only allowed to do this, this, and this in order to deal damage. So I'm giving myself today and Monday to do the DLC. We'll decide on Monday if I push into Tuesday, but either way, I'm ending this run next week. So let's get started. Lovely start. I may actually have to go with a slower strategy for this one. I apologize for how late this is. I did not get to bed. Like, I did not actually fall asleep until after 3 a.m. Do not want to talk about it. And as a result, that has caused probably some lasting sleep schedule problems, if I'm being honest. Nice try. Oh dear. I messed up. Ah, boy. Oh, boy. So... Okay, Fen, why can you not decide where you want to lay down today? I don't want to use an Undying Shard or anything like that. I also don't want to use Luminous Visage. I want to save the Luminous Visage. Ah, damn it. I hit dodge. Why did you not? Okay. Well, that happened. I am noticeably getting better, and if I grinded this for hours on end, I'd be fine. This isn't like Wrath, where I was literally unable to do the damage. I don't even know what level you'd have to be to make Wrath on this difficulty possible. Nice try. Nice try. I hit... Nice try. I don't want to be around you. Oh! Hello, Kay. How are you today? And you are fine, honestly. On that regard, I overslept today. Ah! I mean, hey, if you can oversleep, why not? Alright, now we have... Damn it. Okay. Was it an amazing oversleeping? Not really. I don't tend to have amazing sleep. My sleep is definitely better since switching to a latex bed over memory foam, because I get stuck in the memory foam. But... yeah. I still wouldn't exactly call any sleep I have amazing. Okay. So everybody sleeps slightly differently. I am both awake and asleep a chronic fidgeter. I also tends to overheat pretty easily. Now, normally... memory foam is good for side sleepers, and I tend to sleep on my side. But because I also fidget a lot, it means that despite the fact that memory foam does remember and has that contour, the me-shaped divot, as I call it, it doesn't actually do anything. I just wind up feeling stuck when I go to roll over. Oh dear. So, yeah, for me, swapping to a, I believe it was Talalay latex bed, or mattress, was definitely a lot better. Oh, Moongazer, hello! It's been a while. How are you today? That's nice try there. Escape from your what? I'm sorry, homeless phase. What happened? And, sorry for the bad lore drop, by the way. Okay. Might I ask what happened? Because I actually didn't know that you, had ended up homeless. I mean, I'm glad you're not anymore, but... Really? Okay. Okay. Oh dear. Well, glad to hear that you don't have to worry about that. And again, sorry you came into the bad lore drop. We're just gonna do that. No worries for the next 6 months. Fair enough. Oh dear. Ah, I was trying to avoid that. I should have healed. I should have healed, but I was worried about getting caught. Unfortunate. That was such a good run, too. That was actually such a good go of it. I'm sad now. I'm actually sad now. Yeah, there's not much I can do when it does that. I have to just kind of hope that I'm above it. Hello, Fury. Ooh! Nice! You know what? I think I'm actually gonna pop an Undying here. So, what would you say your favorite of the Darksiders games you've played is? Oh my. Fair enough. Darksiders 2 is great. What? Had to use mods for Darksiders 1? Really? I actually wasn't even aware that there were mods for Darksiders 1. Well, obviously PC version. You don't tend to hear about people modding consoles. Oh dear. What? Do that again. Well, I guess... Oh dear. I know modded consoles exist, I just don't tend to hear about them very much. Oh dear. You have to pay in console? To mod it? Or just... or to get the game? What fury? To mod? Okay. Because I can't guarantee that Fury's not going to do something stupid. Come on. Oh dear, oh dear. nice! Platinum in any Dark Souls game is honestly a really big achievement. Okay, that happened. And I think I win. Let's go! Yeah, the only ones I've platinumed are Elden Ring and Dark Souls 3. Or at least I think. I'll have to double check if I platinumed Elden Ring, because if I did platinum Elden Ring, it wasn't on my own PlayStation account, it was on my dad's. Although, if I do manage to finish Elden Ring Catch Flame only, Incinedorf will be the one getting me the Platinum Trophy. Alright, so... I need something to kill me real quick. Pardon? Hey, get over here. I need... There we go. There we go. Tried to platinum Dark Souls 2 and quit after 10 minutes. That's fair. That is fair. But I actually... Because of the way PlayStation does stuff, I couldn't show it all. You couldn't see the,
Is that a save? It is. Oh, let's... Good eating. Take your time.
what was I saying?
This will be fun for both of us. As you wish.
Oh, I wasn't able to actually show the, trophies as they popped up because of the way PlayStation does stuff. But I did a run of Dark Souls 3 on stream that was no trophies to platinum. It was kind of grueling, actually. Classic is in some ways worse than Scholar, from what I hear. I messed up by coming into this with my Hollow equipped. Ionos is a problem.
You have invaded the wrong realm. For that, you will pay.
Can I... I'm specifically thinking of Shrine of Amana when I say that I heard original was worse than Scholar in some regards. Because... while the enemy placement is supposedly worse in Scholar, the aggro range is supposedly way worse than the original. It won't let me skip this! Why will it not let me skip this?
Surprise. Your descent. Vulgar. That's...
Shrine of the Mana. Okay, so this is already getting off to a brilliant start. I might have to be Flame Hollow for part of this, and then just put myself out as redeemed joke, huh? Well, clearly my attempts against Ionos are off to a rocky start. I apologize for not being able to come up with anything better, Kay. Good job, Miyazaki. What? Oh, you mean talking about Shrine of Amana? I actually like Shrine of Amana. Getting through it with the ladles was a little... Oh, right. You do that. Ah! Good enough iron. What? Wait, is FE iron? I believe FE is iron. Why am I suddenly thinking about the periodic table? What is going on with my brain? I can try the fire hollow, but I gotta be careful. What? Ionos. Ionos, Ionos, Ionos. I genuinely don't know why this thing does so much damage. I actually don't know, because I've never tried being a strength build in Shrine of Amana. Nice try. Ow. Okay, so hang on. What's worse than being or the strength build carried you? Okay. Yeah, I actually have never done a strength build in any Souls game, really. Oh dear. Ow. What? Fucking Ionos. I honestly gravitate more towards casters, generally speaking. Or a mix of caster and melee, so I am kind of used to doing Hexer in Dark Souls 2. Well, yes, but I also did Hexer on my Covenant of Champions run. I named that character Champagne. And I did a Ladle run, which that character was, of course, named Soup. I have to say, the Ladle run was a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. Yes. I named my character for the Ladle only run Soup. Ow. Dang it. Soup ended up doing every single base game boss, including Dark Lurker. I'm pretty sure I had Soup do every single boss in the Crown of the Old Iron King DLC, so that's, I think, a full clear of Broom Tower. Soup also went through and got the Crown of the Ivory King, though I did not touch Frigid Outskirts with that file. And also got the crown, Soup got every crown, okay? And fought Aldia. Soup has, in her own way, proven supremacy. Yes, I named her solely for that pun. That was on me. I should be watching for the blue. The blue is the danger. I went through and did New Game Plus on Dark Souls 1. And I actually ended up doing the Manus Cheese. Please don't do that. Like, please. You waste so much time. I need to go back and do more Dark Souls 1 challenge runs. That game is just kind of saturated. So it's... I'm not sure I can come up with something for Dark Souls 1, oh dear, that hasn't been done before. Yeah, shooting arrows from above is the menace chase. Fury, why? Fury, why? Ah! I need to figure out what moves I can reliably punish for Ionos. Yeah, I ended up using a lot of arrows, okay, on the Manus cheese. I was so bored out of my mind. Honestly, I think my first challenge, or not first challenge run, because I did kind of do a build run, but I think my next Dark Souls 1 challenge run is gonna be something stupid like NPC roulette, where instead... So, a little while back, I did a challenge in Dark Souls 3, where I had to beat the game using only gear, using only NPC loadouts. I was allowed to upgrade as I saw fit. I even allowed infusion in one case. Just because... Why not? However, once I beat a boss with that specific loadout, I had to get rid of every single bit of that NPC's gear. I had to bend the rules a little bit because there was some grinding required after Vort. And I also had to kind of stretch the rules a little bit just to get the run started because you can't start with a similar loadout to an NPC. I ended up starting Pyromancer and just disqualifying Cornix. There really isn't. I ended up having to make a list, and Yuria kind of hard carried me throughout a good portion of that. I killed her early on so I could get her stuff. Yuria and Alva carried me through exploration in that run. I'd swapped to another NPC for the boss just because those were so good for actually moving around. The run is on YouTube if you're interested. Oh, fair enough, fair enough. Ah! Well, the problem was that I had to just keep swapping NPCs. And the only NPCs available in the early game are Swordmaster, Yuria, and if you get lucky with drops, which is why this required a lot of grinding, Grey Rat. Once you hit Road of Sacrifices, you can get the Mad Woman's loadout, or the Cannibal Lady, and the Exile duo. But I didn't want to press on that far with with Swordmaster, so I stopped and grinded for Grey Rat. And granted... Oh dear. You guys remember NPC days? Yeah, I had to. Because I had to look up how to get some of their stuff. Yuria, the only way to get her stuff before literally beating the game is to murder her. Grey Rat is technically impossible, but you can get close with the deserter armor. Let's see here. Aldrich actually ended up taking 2 NPCs because I fought him twice. Havel I didn't actually end up using because I had so many stats to kind of stretch, and I was a little worried about the, I've never attempted the respec glitch, so I didn't really want to mess with that. So I tried to stay as... I tried to pick NPCs with a similar build as possible, which did end up meaning that a lot of the heavier ones I couldn't use, or if I did, it was for something stupid like Ancient Wyvern. I think I actually ended up using a heavy loadout for Ancient Wyvern. Ah! Ow. What is it, Kay? Alright. I already knew Ionos was going to be annoying. I'm just happy I managed the ones leading up to him. Ow! I did not see him move. Did his hands just teleport to me? Yeah, the remaster... I've only played the remastered version. Ah, shit. I need to go back and play Demon's Souls, too. Because I have the remake of that. I want to play the original Demon's Souls. Why did I jump? Yes and no. One of the things I like about From Software's titles is that you can pick any 2, and there will be something about it that is just different enough from the rest that it is going to be challenging in a different way. The biggest challenge with Demon's Souls is routing. You have to go into that one with a plan, or you're going to screw yourself. Dark Souls 1, it's area design. Dark Souls 2, I'd actually say, is the sheer size of it, for the most part. I'm hitting dodge. Yeah, gimmick bosses tend to be easier when you can actually use their gimmick. However, you also have to make allowances for the gimmick when it comes to challenge runs, which is why I don't play Demon's Souls as much as I would like. Bloodborne is just hard to come up with challenge runs for. That, and I absolutely despise the blood vial system. Like, I hate that with every fiber of my being. Oh, thank you for the redeem, Kay. I will accept that in a minute. I'm not gonna be living long anyway. Ow. As I said, Demon's Souls, the biggest challenge is the routing. With Dark Souls 1, it's level design. With Dark Souls 2, it's the enemy variety, I'd say. There's just so many different kinds of enemies, and so enemy variety, and in some cases enemy density. Because in a lot of cases the bosses are actually really simple, it's just getting to them that's a problem. I pretty notoriously clear out Iron Keep every single time. At this rate. Or at this point. With Dark Souls 3... I think Dark Souls 3 and Elden Ring really focus on the boss, or on the bosses, but Dark Souls 3 is more all-around difficult because some of the enemies, just the random normal enemies, are absolutely insane, whereas Elden Ring tends to hyperfixate on the bosses when it comes to the difficulty. And Bloodborne's biggest challenge is item management. Sekiro is just so different that its difficulty comes from you've probably played the other titles and are expecting it to play like the other titles. I actually think I prefer, in a lot of cases, the way Dark Souls 2's connectivity is designed. Because there is actually a lot of branching paths in Dark Souls 2. And it's essentially Dark Souls 1, but bigger in that regard. Fair enough. Thank you for the lurk. Sekiro is really good. I need to figure out a challenge run for Sekiro. Because I have a couple ideas for, like, all of them, except Sekiro. I also need to finish getting myself set up so I can do Jack only in Code Vein. Because I actually need a second file set up for that. I did companions only at one point. That was, I think, the first challenge run on this channel. But not specific companion only. But I think I am gonna wind up doing NPC roulette for Dark Souls 1 at some point. What? I was hitting dodge. Why did you not dodge, Fury? I'm not sure how well I'll be able to do it, but I can try NPC roulette for Dark Souls 2 as well. I'm actually really curious to see how it'll go in Elden Ring. I'm gonna do some kind of crest roulette thing for Silk Song after Sea of Sorrow comes out. And I've beaten it twice, but that's neither here nor there. Although I will say that even with doing crest roulette the same way I did NPC roulette would not work for Silk Song. Fury? What do you mean fixed iframe? Hold up, Moongazer, what do you mean by fixed iframe? Not necessarily. The boss I hear a lot of people say that about is honestly Pursuer. Oh dear. Yeah, I have... Honestly, Pursuer's pretty easy. The one that people usually bring up with the iframe issue is the Pursuer, and I think it's because that's before they figured out how agility works. But I never actually had an issue with the iframes. Like, sure, sometimes I'd get hit and I was like, oh, come on, how did that happen? But that's just the hitboxes in general. And I've had that problem with Dark Souls 1 and 3 and Elden Ring as well. Though, granted, I'm not sure I can really be counted as a normal player, considering that due to some complications with the ladle run, I ended up fighting Pursuer with my fists, and then refighting it on Bonfire Intensity 2 once I actually got the ladle. I'm not really... I think I technically count as a sweat. Nice try. Well, that was unfortunate. Okay, I never really noticed that, mostly because I realized pretty early on that it's not like armor actually helped much in that game. Thank you for the redeem, Kay. But I've always been more of a Fashion Souls person anyway. At least when it comes to casual playing. To the point where even in my Covenant of Champions build, run, I actually ended up picking something that I thought looked cool rather than something actually practical. Oh my. Yeah, I never knew that. I never actually knew about the armor hitbox thing. I knew that heavier armor wasn't very good for Dark Souls 2. However, I noticed that based on defense, not based on the hitboxes. Because if you actually stop and look at it, the heavier armor is incredibly heavy for like maybe a 10% defensive increase, and that's not really worth it for me, especially when I prefer weapons like halberds. So that combined with my love of fashion souls, really just made it so that I never wore the really heavy armors. Again, I used the standard leather set for my Covenant of Champions run, okay? Moving on. So yeah, I never knew about the armor hitbox thing. That said, it does make sense. Yep, okay. Which reason is why the majority never wears armor? Fashion souls or the hitboxes? And it's useless either way. Not necessarily. Sometimes wearing the armor can be the difference between life and death. However, at the same time, it's not going to save you from a skill issue. A lot of the time, and I fully acknowledge this, my issue is skill-based. I can call bullshit, but honestly, with the way I play, I don't tend to encounter as much bullshit with Dark Souls 2 as I do, honestly, Elden Ring. Oof. Alright, the ad break just started. Can you hear me still, Moongazer? I can't remember if you use ad blockers. I am throwing. Watch fish swimming inside a laptop. Okay, now I want to see a fish-powered laptop. The fish would have to be very well fed, of course. But, like, the swimming around generates energy. Although I suppose that would be more... I suppose a desktop would be better for an unhinged idea like that. Oh dear. Maybe Japan one day? Ah! Nah, let's be real here. One of these days, someone's gonna end up... Oh dear. The power of his footsteps, fish is a piece of cake. Okay. That's a statement. I was about to make a joke that one of these days somebody's going to wind up arresting someone who's very affiliated with PETA and find a fish-powered system. Because we all know how hypocritical they are. But I've lost my phrasing. Anyway, back to Dark Souls 2. I never had problems with the durability either. Or actually, not never. The one problem I had with it was on the ladle run. And it's why I ended up having to do some bosses with my fists. But honestly, I figured that was just the ladle. Because the ladle is, at its core, a joke weapon. Yep, okay. Well, now we know why. I need do in the murderous way. I am one bloodthirsty bird. But yeah, because the ladle breaks so quickly, and I figured this was just because it was a joke weapon, because even with the normal playthroughs, I haven't really had much of an issue with durability. I tend to be pretty okay at resource management. I would get like maybe a 10th of the boss's health bar gone, and then the ladle would just completely stop doing damage because I couldn't get access to an old mundane stone. Thankfully, VZ, I would shout out VZ, but I can't I don't know how to do that without VZ being in the chat, dropped me a mundane ladle so I could just go back once I got Bonfire Ascetics, and fight Last Giant and Pursuer on Bonfire Intensity 2, which is essentially New Game Plus difficulty with the ladle. Your weapon breaks before you enter the boss arena. Is this Shrine of Amana again? Because I do have to admit, those shaking acid thingies are annoying. Also, Dragon Shrine. Dishonorable mention is Dragon Shrine here. Ah! Really? How did I know? Or well, not Dragon Shrine, Dragon Airy. You may find this hilarious, you might not. But after I got the old mundane stone, I didn't have any issues with the durability of the ladles because old mundane stone makes it so that the ladles, they scale off your lowest stat. However, you never have to worry about durability again because most of your... Yep, okay. Damage comes from the scaling and not the ladle itself anyway, and the mundane stone makes it scale even when broken. So I just run around with broken ladles the whole game. Oh, and mundane ladles can still be buffed with things like magic weapon, by the way. Well, obviously I was okay, so thank you for the redeem, Kay. What I did with Shrine of Amana and Dragon Airy was, I ran through without any of my... Or, well... I cleared out the acid bug thingies in Shrine of Amana without any rings or armor equipped because I was getting too close and those were going to break regardless. I didn't have to worry about it with the ladles because, again, mundane. But... yeah, those are the only two areas I've really had durability issues. And that's partially because those were designed to give you durability issues. And I honestly didn't mind that because it highlighted a portion or something that I... well, okay, I did mind it because it's annoying. But... I don't hate it or anything. Because it highlights something in the game I don't normally pay much attention to because there isn't a reason to pay attention to it. Did we play the same game? that... Again, I'm not exactly a normal player, okay? I'm also pretty good at resource management and pacing myself, and I make sure to rest at a bonfire frequently. Because I do try to make sure that I'm not going to wind up in a situation where durability actually becomes an issue. Less luck and more paying attention to what the game is trying to get me to do. most games actually wind up being quite... Are you kidding me? Amicable? If you pay attention to the mechanics. You blame the furtive pygmy? What? Ow! Really surprised he hasn't gone for a heal. Really? Must have done something with your version of the game. No, I think it might legitimately come down to the fact that I'm not really a normal player. The average player of any game is not really going to achieve the level of skill to normally... or is not going to achieve the level of skill to challenge run a game. I joke about being incompetent and bad at the game because part of my humor is self-depreciative, but logically speaking, I am actually pretty good at these games considering the fact that I can and have beaten challenge runs. But I think I've actually done more challenge runs of Dark Souls 2 than any other game at this point. Which is actually kind of sad considering I've only done 2. But the average player is just going to do what they think is fun for them. They're not going to sit for hours on end trying to get really good RNG for a boss that can attack as fast as Ionos does. Some of this is skill, some of it is RNG. They aren't going to try and beat a boss like Wrath with only plunge attacks. Oh dear. Does that make sense? Oh no. Alright, so if I want a shot at Ionos, because I suck at dodging the lightning, I have to try and not use any of my 5 heals. throughout the entire first phase of the battle. This is going to be interesting. Actually, hang on.
What would you ask? Take your time. You drive too
At this
hard
point, I'm
on
definitely not going to be in a position where that's going to matter.
as you
So again, I joke, I'm self-depreciative. I call things easy, but I do understand that I am, technically speaking, in the upper percentile of players. Just from the fact that I've attempted any of this. So basically you are insane as the rest of us. What is insanity if not a bit of personality? That was dumb of me. That is dumb of me. That was so dumb of me. I'm dead. As soon as I saw the stomp. As soon as I registered what attack he was doing, I knew. Pardon? I don't know where that belch came from. Nashandra and Gwyn? Hold up, are you starting a ship in the chat? What? Actually, come to think of it, who was Gwyn's wife? Because Nameless, Guinevere, and Gwendolyn had to have come from somewhere. So yeah, where was... and like all of this... Honestly... Okay, somehow dodged that, sort of. Ah! honestly, if we're going the crack ship route for how Gwyn's children came to be, I'm honestly more inclined to think Seath than Manus. Logically speaking, it's far more likely that Gwyn just had a wife that we never heard about, and she just disappeared. But considering that Seath canonically pulled Guinevere, we know he's got game. And Gwyn did have a lot of favoritism towards the Scaleless Dragon. Like, the other lords... Oh dear. Nito kind of got sealed away. I know logic... All of the lords technically got used in some way or another, but unlike the others that found their own souls, if I remember correctly, Gwyn actually gave Seath his. And then there's the four kings that just sort of stole it. But Nito, the Witch of Izalith, and the Furtive Pygmy. Yeah, we don't. Although, honestly... We don't know the Bed of Chaos's husband, but I think that's a lot less concerning than... Why did I use a heal? Whatever. I just realized I did that. Then... I'm a lot less concerned about not knowing who the Bed of Chaos, who the father of the Bed of Chaos's children was, than not knowing who the mother of Gwyn's children was, if that makes sense. Because honestly, with Izalith appearing to be somewhat more closer to matriarchal, I use the term loosely since most civilizations in video games are actually patriarchy. They just might have a woman as leader. And most matriarchies, actually, the father's out of the picture. At least from what limited research I've done. Like, the father might know the kids exist, but largely... in a matriarchy, the children would be raised by the mother and the mother's family, so it is entirely possible that the Witch of Izalith got with someone, had kids, and then the guy just wasn't in the picture because of cultural reasons. And now Moongazer is shipping the Witch of Izalith with Gwyn. I mean, technically it's possible. Hold up, is that a tag? Hang on, we're going on AO3. We're going on AO3. Is that a tag? Dark Souls AO3. Unfortunately, I cannot pull this up on screen, but let's see here. Alright, so it's loading. Okay. So this is actually kind of weird. There is no Gwyn and Witch of Izalith ship tag on AO3. It does not exist. I cannot find it in the search. However, for some reason, some people have decided to ship Artorias with the Witch of Izalith. You know, the guy that canonically has a girlfriend. Artorias got nothing? What? Okay, to be fair, we also kill Artorias, so... But, I mean, prior to the whole Ulasil thing, it is heavily implied that Artorias and Lord's Blade Kiaran were involved. I think it was actually, like... I think there was also cut dialogue relating to that, too. From Goff. I think it's also heavily implied, or, well, maybe not heavily, but it is at the very least somewhat implied that Ornstein, at the very least, had a thing for Nameless. Which, that I think is a really cute one. That I think is a really cute ship. I do also like Kiaran and Artorias, but that one's more tragic to me just because of the fact that she requests his soul after his death. Oh dear. I really need to focus back on the fight. I've gotten distracted by her little field trip to AO3. This is your fault, Moongazer. I'm 100% blaming you. Skill issue? Well, yes. Not being able to fight while distracted is definitely a skill issue. However, you're the one that started the shipping conversation. Fury, why did you not jump, Fury? Pygmy? Okay, if we're just going based on Dark Souls 1 lore, that is actually kind of plausible. But we know that the pygmies were actually multiple beings based on, or because of Dark Souls 3. So, it could be multiple pygmies in that case. Which would really recontextualize why Gwyn would want the pygmies to be sealed away. I forgot about Filianor. Oh, nice! Congrats for that, Kay. Gwyn didn't hate humanity, he was afraid of it. If Gwyn hated humanity, he would have exterminated them like he did the dragons. Instead, he chose to subjugate them. It's not really the age of humans at that point. Alright, ad break just started. Are you still here, Moongazer? I can never tell with you. Ah, dang it. That was actually going pretty well, too. That one was actually going pretty well. Ionos is definitely... Oh dear. Uh-oh. Yeah. Dude, I should really be waiting until after I know what Ionos is doing in order to do the jump and the plunge. Because if I'm caught in the air and I'm at less than full health, I'm just kind of done if he does the stomp. The blue stomp specifically. Stasis stomp? Yeah, I can't deal with stasis stomp. Not in the air. Uh-oh. I just said I needed to be more careful. I'm so bad at following my own advice, it's not even funny. Alright, so ad break is over. Moongaze, are you back? What would Prime Gwen look like? Probably something close to the Soul of Cinder or Nameless. Some combination of the two, maybe. Because we know that Nameless actually has similarities in his fighting style to Gwyn and Ornstein. Really, Fury? What even was that? That one was jank. I got caught in the armpit. More like you trained him? Well, it is entirely possible. It's almost guaranteed that Nameless and Ornstein trained together. Which one of them trained the other could be up for debate, but they definitely trained together. And we also know that Gwyn would have had to have trained Nameless in some regard. So a Prime Gwyn would probably have a lot more moves similar to Nameless, which is why I brought up Soul of Cinder, because Soul of Cinder also gets lightning miracles in the second phase. So my guess would be that if we ever were to fight Prime Gwyn would have looked, his moveset would have looked something like a combination of Nameless King and Soul of Cinder. No, people have actually done comparisons with the Gwyn Lord of Cinder animation and the Ornstein animations with Nameless. Like, side by side, checking out the animations. So there would have had to have been some training involved there. You don't have you don't share a fighting style with someone and not have either similar teachers or be taught by that individual. So when it comes to style of fighting, I'm dead. Either Gwyn trained Nameless and Nameless trained Ornstein, or Gwyn trained Nameless and Ornstein, and yeah, Ornstein, because of his preference for the spear, ended up with a very different fighting style to Gwyn, whereas Nameless, who uses a sword spear, because it's a spear and a sword in one, ended up with something of a hybridized... let me rephrase this. So there's a possibility that Gwyn trained Nameless. Nameless, using his sword spear, or well, we know that Gwyn trained Nameless. Nameless, using a sword spear, would have had to adapt Gwyn's style a little bit to suit, well, the fact that he uses a different weapon. The Dragon Slayer in Dark Souls 2 is a weird one. We know that that wasn't actually Ornstein, but it fought like Ornstein. A copycat of some sort. We know that Nameless would have to adapt his Gwyn style to suit a spear, because Gwyn doesn't use a spear. Ornstein could then have been trained by Nameless and would have had to adapt the style further, in order to actually, use it with a even different spear. Normally I'd say you're onto something, but lore-wise, that would literally just mean that that's standardized training. And most spear users actually don't move like Ornstein. And as for individuals who use lightning, those are kind of few and far between. But the old Dragon Slayer in Dark Souls 2 was honestly probably either a copycat or part of the same kind of squad. Most spear users don't have friends like Smough. Okay, Smough is... You do realize that Ornstein is still alive in the Smough transformation cutscene, right? And there's a few different ways you could take that. But my thoughts, based on... I thought you said it in a sarcastic way. Alright, so that's two very different conversations. First one, back on the topic of the Dragon Slayers. My thoughts are that the Dragon Slayers actually had their own specialized training. If you take into consideration the fact that there's no way that the Silver Knights were the four Knights of Gwyn were the only... Well, actually, we know for a fact Hyarin didn't become a Knight of Gwyn until way later. But there's absolutely no way that the Silver Knights were the bulk of the forces that were taking down the dragons. That was mostly Ornstein and Goff, and I'm willing to bet that Ornstein was actually the leader of a squad. Goff too, probably, but Ornstein's squad probably would have contained other Dragon Slayers that fought like him. Such as, and that, my honest bet there is that if the old Dragon Slayer in Dark Souls 2 isn't just an Ornstein copycat, it was one of Ornstein's underlings, for lack of a better term. One of the men under his command. Similarly, I think the Dragon Slayer armor in Dark Souls 3 also might have belonged to someone who fought alongside Ornstein and the other Dragon Slayers. Smough is a little different, because we know that Ornstein, the Ornstein we fight, is actually an illusion in Dark Souls 1. But Smough isn't. Smough genuinely is not. So my working theory on that is that when Ornstein left Anor Londo to go look for Nameless, he left his soul with Gwendolyn. Gwendolyn then used that soul to make the illusion of Ornstein that we fight. Now, there's some debate as to whether or not Smough knew that Ornstein was an illusion. Because he canonically was a bit jealous of the knights. Smough wanted to be a knight. But because of the whole cannibal thing, he couldn't be. So, there's a chance that he didn't know and he thought that he was just taking what he thought was deserved from Ornstein. There's a chance that he did know and, well, still thought he was taking what he deserved from Ornstein. But there's also the chance that he knew and was insulted by the fact that he was fighting alongside an illusion. Because Smough had his pride. So if he was insulted at fighting alongside an illusion of Ornstein, and he knew that it was an illusion of Ornstein, then there is also the possibility that the laughter and the gleeful killing was because he wished it was the real Ornstein fighting alongside him and was disappointed in the illusion's lack of ability. Okay, Moongazer started this conversation, with ship talk, of all things. As for... because it's actually also implied that Smough somehow survived the Chosen Undead. And that's where I think the Gwendolyn illusions come into play. Because if Gwendolyn was... Like, Gwendolyn had the means to give us essentially fake souls. And because I think Ornstein left his soul in Orlando when he went to go look for Nameless, it is entirely possible that either way, when we defeat O and S in the original Dark Souls, because we only get the one soul, it is entirely possible that either way, what we get isn't Smoth's soul, it's Ornstein's. And Gwendolyn is just able to make... well, Smoth is just able to kind of corrupt it through the illusion. Or Gwendolyn's illusion is able to make it look like and behave like Smoth's soul. Or, well, what Smoth would have for a soul. Meanwhile, Smoth's actual soul could be somewhere safe, and he could be reconstructed later, or maybe even removed from the boss arena before we actually kill him. Because again, Illusion Ornstein does not kill Smoth, he just puts his hand on Smoth's body. For all we know, Smoth could just be unconscious and Gwendolyn could move him during the transition. And in the case of Smoth smashing Ornstein's body, there are also plenty of situations there where Gwendolyn could just remove Smoth or give us the illusion that we actually killed Smoth. Because we also know that that what we fight in the Gwendolyn fight is an illusion of Gwendolyn. And why does Gwendolyn never take any actions against the demons that got away from Izalith? Honestly, I don't think the demons got away. Gwendolyn is, in a lot of ways, the cruelest member of Gwen's family. Possibly even worse in some regards than Gwen himself. Considering we know that Gwendolyn is certainly a schemer. It wouldn't really surprise me. Yep, okay. To learn that he left a loophole or made a deal regarding the demons in Izalith. Especially considering he knew that there would have to be someone to go down and get rid of the Witch of Izalith in order to create a second Lord of Cinder. To take up Gwen's mantle. In that case, he would have manipulated the situation so that any chosen undead would feel no remorse for slaughtering however many demons are down in Izalith. Gwyn was incredibly cruel, however, a lot of his quote-unquote schemes weren't actually schemes. He he executed dragons and had a bunch of other stuff, and he had an assassin. Of course, we know what Kiaran did. However, when it comes to manipulation, that's not Gwyn's cup of tea. He is forceful and overt. He did hate outsiders. Though again, he was more afraid of humans than hateful of them. And we know this because otherwise humans would have just been completely wiped out. Which implies that he didn't actually hate humans, he just feared what they could become. If he hated humanity, humanity would have gone the way of the dragons. Gwyn was just so much more powerful. I'm not saying that Gwyn wasn't wrong and that he wasn't cruel. However, I'd say that Gwendolyn was arguably worse in some angles. Both statements can coexist. Oh dear. By worse, I mean what could be considered evil. Gwendolyn's a boy. Like, that was that was the entire, that's part of how Gwendolyn actually ended up the way he did, is because he was raised to be a girl despite being a boy. And it caused a lot of problems for him mentally. Gwyn was one of those individuals that probably should never have had kids. Let's be real here. Gwyn and Marika are the same in that regard. They should not have been parents. But whereas Gwyn was the forceful kind of awful, Gwendolyn was the manipulative and secretive type of awful, which is in some cases worse and in a lot of cases far more dangerous. At least when your foe is forceful, you know what they're doing and you can plan around it. When you don't know what your enemy is up to, or you don't know what's going on, that's when things can go really, really wrong. Guinevere was definitely Gwendolyn's most well-crafted illusion. And canonically speaking, that's because Guinevere was the sibling that he was the closest to. I honestly don't know if Gwendolyn ever actually met Filianor. And it is actually heavily implied that if there is an actual exile, well, it's heavily implied that the actual exile of Nameless was Gwendolyn's doing and not Gwyn's, Because how would Nameless have been able to leave flowers and a miracle on his father's grave if his father was the one that banished him from Anor Londo? Okay, this is going to sound incredibly out of pocket, but despite the whole manipulative evil thing, I think Gwendolyn is actually hotter than Guinevere. Just saying. Not gonna stop me from killing him every playthrough, but just saying. Anyway, impromptu lore talks aside, I am gonna call it here. If you're interested in anything I've done up until this point, you can check out my YouTube channel. I try to upload stuff same day, and I group my runs by playlist, so they're easier to find. If you're interested in seeing my announcements, I post them to my stories here on Twitch, to YouTube, and currently also to Instagram. If you would like to see my clips in an easier fashion, I post them to YouTube, currently to TikTok, and currently also to Instagram. The links to all of that are in the chat now, though I don't blame you if you don't want to check any of it out. If you've made it this far and are curious to see where I go from here, why not drop a follow? It takes but one button press, and you can always change your mind if you decide my content isn't for you. Tomorrow, it should be back to Lords of the Fallen with Karato, provided he doesn't get sick or tired again, and I can fix my own sleep schedule. Thursday and Friday, it's back to 9 Souls. And then next week is going to look a little different. So Monday, I will be continuing trying to beat Ionos. We'll decide at the end of my Monday stream whether I want to continue into Tuesday trying to fight Ionos, or if I want to just rush Pride and Envy and get it over with. Then I'm not streaming on Sunday. Not unless I end up actually missing a day. Wednesday next week is going to be more Lords of the Fallen, although once Karato and I are done with Lords of the Fallen, I actually have it lined up and I'll be playing Darksiders Genesis with Magnifico. I should probably boot that up and figure out how the online co-op works. Okay, hold up. Analytics. Pulling up the analytics right now. Yesterday, I had about 10 viewers. So people did know I was live. Granted, those 10 were spread out over the course, because I don't really get too much in the way of viewers at the same time. I tend to get at most like 4 or 5. But yes, 10 people knew I was live yesterday. Anyway, once Karato and I are done with Lords of the Fallen, I'm gonna play Darksiders Genesis with Magnifico. I should really boot that up and get the whole online co-op part of it down, just so we can not spend the first bit of the stream just trying to figure out co-op. Thursday will still be 9 Souls. Friday is where things are going to get really weird. So, I do plan on doing a Nine Souls stream on Friday. However, next... If you didn't go, I'll meet me tomorrow. Fair enough. I believe next Friday is May... Or wait, is it next Friday? Because I think next Friday is May 1st. Hold up. Yeah, next Friday is May 1st. So Bay Altena. We're going to be doing a Cosmic Bonfire D&D stream. We had planned on getting started on that, and stuff came up. Like, my grandma died, then Piku had spring break, and it was just a whole thing. So, we're going to be actually starting that campaign on next Friday, May 1st, Bay Altena. If I wake up early enough, I'll do a Nine Souls stream beforehand. If I don't wake up early enough, I'll do a Nine Souls stream afterwards. So, yeah, this week's going to be a little weird. Or, well, next week is going to be a little weird. One moment. Alright, I'll be running afterwards, but we're going to raid Pikachu. She's playing... Lies of P. So stay tuned if you're interested in that. That said, happy time zones, everyone. And I hope you all have an excellent day. Wait, what? I think Piku actually just ended as I was going to raid her. Hold on, we gotta find a new person to raid. I've never had that happen before. I have never had that happen before. Or, wait, no. It says that she... What? Okay, so we're gonna go... I'm gonna... It says that she's still live. What's going on here? Oh, channel is offline. It's not online anymore. Okay. Guess we're gonna go... Say hi to Corrado. I'm still gonna be raiding and running because I am not fond of Star Wars. But stay tuned if you're interested in Jedi Fallen Order. Again, that's it. Happy time zones, everyone. I hope you all have an excellent day.